Max Ryder stared out the viewport of the GCS diplomatic envoy, his weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass as the stars blurred past. His standard-issue human ambassador uniform itched in places he couldn't scratch in public. 3 months into this assignment, he still couldn't figure out why Earth Central Command thought sending a former Chicago beat cop as a human representative was a good idea. Ambassador Ryder, your presence is required in the harmonization chamber for pre-diplomatic alignment. The ship's communication system spoke with a voice like wind chimes being strangled. Max sighed. Tell Captain Glixnar I'll be there in 5. Immediate attendance is requested. The temporal buffer you suggest is inappropriate. Yeah, on my way. Max pushed himself away from the viewport. Aliens and their obsession with punctuality. Like the universe would implode if someone showed up 4 minutes late to another pointless meeting. The harmonization chamber was exactly what it sounded like, a room designed to put diplomats in the right mindset before negotiations. For most species, this meant soothing lights, calming scents, and gentle music. For Max, it meant a headache and the overwhelming urge to take a nap. Captain Glixnar, the 7-foot-tall amphibian with more limbs than seemed reasonable, vibrated his dorsal membrane in disapproval as Max sauntered in. The universal translator rendered this as a disappointed tut. Ambassador Ryder, your chronological disregard continues to distress the crew. Sorry, Captain. Was busy contemplating the infinite mysteries of the universe. Max dropped into the only human-shaped seat. So what's today's crisis? First Officer Zeeble, a diminutive fungoid being who spoke by changing colors, flashed a sequence that the translator interpreted as, but the Phobians have requested diplomatic dialogue regarding the neutral zone mining rights. Max groaned. The Phobians. Of course. I thought we all agreed those guys were bad news? The Galactic Council believes all sentient species deserve a voice, Glixnar solemnly intoned. Even the ones who literally feed on fear? Ambassador T. Pring, a crystalline entity that communicated through light pulses, shimmered disapprovingly. Your species' tendency toward judgment before full understanding is precisely why humans were considered too primitive for galactic inclusion until recently. Max smiled without humor. And yet here I am, helping you deal with the space bullies you're all too polite to stand up to. The truth was, humans had only been discovered by the galactic community 8 Earth years ago. The alien diplomats had arrived expecting either cowering primitives or violent savages. What they got instead were billions of sarcastic primates who viewed first contact as neat, but were more concerned about their streaming subscriptions and weekend plans. Your species' resilience is notable, conceded medical officer Quib, a gelatinous blob who spent most meetings pulsating anxiously. Though your physiological responses to stress remain puzzling. Yeah, we're full of surprises. Max stretched, purposely ignoring the preparatory meditation sequence Glixnar had initiated. So when do we meet these Phobian characters? We rendezvous at the neutral station in approximately 6 standard hours, replied Security Chief Krax, the only crew member Max somewhat liked. A reptilian with a pragmatic approach to problems and an appreciation for what humans called straight talk. Great. Anyone got a rundown on Phobian customs I should know about? Things to avoid? Gestures that might start an interstellar war? The crew exchanged uncomfortable glances, their various anatomies expressing concern in vastly different ways. Ambassador Ryder, Glixnar finally said, perhaps it would be best if you observed these negotiations rather than participated. Max raised an eyebrow. You're benching me? After dragging me across 3 sectors? Your species has limited diplomatic experience and the Phobians are challenging. For translation, they'll eat you alive, Krax added helpfully. Max leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. Sounds like fun. I'm definitely coming now. The neutral station hung in space like an oversized disco ball, rotating slowly and reflecting light from the nearby binary stars. Inside, Max followed the diplomatic team through sterile corridors, trying not to look as bored as he felt. So these Phobians, Max whispered to Krax as they walked. What's their deal exactly? Krax's scales rippled in what Max had learned was discomfort. They evolved on a world of perpetual darkness, developed psychological warfare instead of physical. They can sense fears, project them. Like telepaths? No, more like chemists. They exude compounds that interact with most species' neurological systems. Fancy way of saying they're walking fear factories. Precisely why you should remain silent during negotiations, Glixnar interrupted from ahead. The diplomatic chamber was dimly lit and uncomfortably warm. Across a long table sat the Phobian delegation, tall, slender figures shrouded in dark robes. Their faces, if they had any, were hidden in shadow beneath deep hoods. Max squinted. Are they going for a ring-wraith vibe, or is it just me? Ambassador Ryder, Glixnar hissed through gill slits. The tallest Phobian figure tilted its hood slightly. When it spoke, the voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. You bring a human to these discussions? How quaint. Max felt the crew stiffen around him. Even T'Pring's crystalline structure seemed to dim slightly. The human serves as observer only, Glixnar assured them. Now, regarding the mining rights in the Proxima Belt. We find the human's presence distracting, the Phobian interrupted. Such primitive creatures. We have studied their world. A backwater planet of violence and disorder. Max couldn't help himself. Hey, only we get to talk trash about Earth. The hood turned directly toward him. Max felt a chill that had nothing to do with the room temperature. It speaks. How charming. Max corrected. And yeah, I speak. Got ears too, which means I can hear you being condescending from across the table. Ambassador Ryder. Glixnar was practically vibrating with alarm. The Phobian leader made a sound that might have been laughter. The human has spirit. Unusual. Most species cower in our presence naturally. Yeah, well, I'm from Chicago. Takes more than a Halloween costume to scare me. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. The Phobian's robes rippled, though there was no breeze. Your diplomatic team lacks control over its pet human, another Phobian observed. Glixnar was frantically trying to salvage the situation. Please excuse the human's cultural ignorance. We should return to the matter of mining rights. We believe a demonstration is in order, the lead Phobian cut in, to remind all parties of the natural order. Max noticed Quib starting to tremble violently. Krax's hand moved to his weapon. Even Zeeble had turned a sickly gray color. Don't, Glixnar warned, but it was too late. The Phobians raised their arms in unison, their robes falling back to reveal elongated limbs ending in what looked like mist-dispensing glands. Before anyone could react, a greenish vapor began filling the room. Emergency protocols. Glixnar shouted, but the diplomatic team was already succumbing. Zeeble collapsed into a quivering puddle of fungus. T'Pring's crystalline form clouded over. Quib simply oozed under the table, while Krax stood frozen, eyes wide with primal terror. Glixnar alone managed to maintain some composure, though his membranes were vibrating at a frequency that suggested extreme distress. This violation of diplomatic immunity is merely a reminder of reality, the Phobian leader finished. Fear is the only truth. All around Max, the diplomatic team was incapacitated by visions of their worst fears. Meanwhile, the mist swirled around him, entering his nostrils, settling on his skin. Max inhaled deeply. He waited for the terror to hit, for hallucinations or panic or whatever these fear merchants were selling. Instead, he sniffed again, more considerately this time. Max said, looking genuinely puzzled. Smells like home. The Phobians went completely still. Even through their concealing hoods, their confusion was palpable. Perhaps the human's neurological system is too primitive, one suggested. The leader moved closer to Max, dispensing more of the greenish vapor directly into his face. What do you fear, human? Show us. Max waved the mist away like an annoying mosquito. I mean, It's not bad. Kinda reminds me of the Chicago River on St. Patrick's Day. Maybe with hints of the L train during rush hour? Definitely getting notes of my Aunt Mabel's basement. The Phobians conferred among themselves in hurried whispers. The leader turned back to Max, the hood tilting in what might have been confusion. Impossible. All sentient life forms respond to the terror mist. Max shrugged. Look, I don't know what to tell you. If you're going for scary, you might want to workshop this a bit more. Now, can we cut the haunted house routine and get back to business? You're freaking out my colleagues. The Phobian leader dispensed another blast of mist, more concentrated this time. Max closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and opened them again. That's definitely got some dumpster fire in it. Maybe a touch of Gary, Indiana on a hot day. He nodded appreciatively. You guys should bottle this as air freshener. Call it Essence of Earth or something. By now the Phobians were agitated, their robes rustling as they moved around Max like confused predators encountering an uncooperative prey. What manner of being are you? Demanded the leader. Max glanced around at his incapacitated teammates, then back at the Phobians. His casual demeanor shifted slightly as he stood straighter, eyes narrowing. I'm a human, and I think it's time you and I had a little chat about Earth. Max picked up his chair and set it directly across from the Phobian leader, straddling it backward with his arms resting on the backrest. So you wanted to know about fear, huh? Let me tell you about where I come from. The Phobians remained standing but seemed mesmerized by this unexpected development. Earth isn't like your controlled environments or harmonized ecosystems, Max began. It's a messy, chaotic ball of extremes. We've got oceans that can swallow cities whole and mountains that'll freeze you solid in minutes. We've got creatures so small you can't see them that'll kill you from the inside out. All planets have natural dangers, the Phobian leader dismissed. Max laughed. Sure, but on Earth, the planet itself tries to shake us off regularly. Earthquakes, volcanoes, tornadoes that can lift houses. Hell, sometimes the air itself gets so hot it kills people, or so cold your skin freezes in seconds. Yet you survive. We don't just survive. We vacation in these places. Max grinned. Humans climb our deadliest mountains for fun. We swim in oceans full of predators because we like the beach. When a tornado's coming, some of us grab cameras and chase after it. The Phobians shifted uncomfortably. But natural disasters are just the starter course, Max continued. The real kicker? The most dangerous thing on Earth is other humans. He leaned forward, lowering his voice conspiratorially. Let me tell you about my old beat in Chicago. 3 years working the night shift in a neighborhood where gunshots were as common as car horns. I've walked into apartments where the air was worse than your little Green Party favor here. Mix of meth cooking, decomposing garbage, and things I don't even want to identify. Max pointed to a scar on his forearm. Got this from a 12-year-old with a broken bottle. Kid was so high he thought I was a demon. This one. He tapped his chin. Bar fight. Guy had brass knuckles. The interesting scars are under the uniform. He remembered his rookie year, responding to a call at the industrial district. A chemical plant accident had released a toxic cloud that smelled like swimming pools and burning plastic. While the other officers waited for hazmat, Max had gone in with just his uniform, because a security guard was trapped inside. The smell had burned his nostrils, made his eyes water, but he'd dragged the unconscious guard out anyway. You know what we call a bad air day in some parts of Earth? Tuesday. Our cities pump out smog so thick it blocks the sun. We've got rivers that used to catch fire because of all the chemicals we dumped in them. The Phobian leader had gone very still. Your species polluted its own habitat? Deliberately? Not deliberately. Just carelessly. For profit, convenience, whatever. Max shrugged. We're working on it. Point is, humans grew up breathing stuff that would probably knock you flat. I spent my childhood summers at my grandparents' farm next to fields sprayed with pesticides. My high school was built on an old industrial site, half the kids had asthma. Max noticed Quib beginning to reform at the edge of the table. The other diplomats were also showing signs of recovery as the fear mist's effects wore off. "So your tolerance is environmental adaptation?" one of the Phobians asked, sounding genuinely curious. "Partly. But it's more than that." Max tapped his temple. "Humans live with fear constantly, and we just keep going. Death, anxiety, economic insecurity, social rejection, these are background noise to us. Most humans walk around with existential dread as a constant companion." He grinned again, but there was something wolfish about it this time. "Oh, and the best part. We make entertainment out of fear. We pay good money to watch horror movies, ride death-defying roller coasters, jump out of perfectly functional airplanes. Your terror mist? We'd probably package it as an extreme sport experience." The lead Phobian had backed up slightly. "Your species is disturbing?" "We prefer the term adaptable," Max replied. "Now about those mining rights." Glixnar had recovered enough to stare at Max with what translated as horrified admiration. "Ambassador Ryder, perhaps we should adjourn." "No need, Captain." Max kept his eyes on the Phobians. "I think our friends here were just about to reconsider their position on the Proxima Belt." The Phobian leader's hood shifted in what might have been indignation. "We will not be intimidated by primitive." "Let me stop you right there," Max interrupted. "See, now I'm curious about something. Your whole deal is sensing fear, right? I'm wondering what happens when you encounter something you're afraid of." The Phobians moved closer together, a subtle defensive posture that wasn't lost on Max. "Here's a fun fact about humans," Max continued casually. "We're really, really good at pattern recognition. Like I've already noticed that you flinch when I move too quickly." He snapped his hand up suddenly, and all the Phobians jerked backward. "Interesting," he murmured. "You know what else I've noticed? When I mentioned pollution, your breathing apparatus made this little clicking sound. Like this is all new and terrifying information to you." Max stood up slowly. The Phobians retreated another step. "So let me paint you a picture of what happens if you push this mining conflict. Humans don't do well with threats. When we're scared, we don't collapse like my friends here. We get angry, we get inventive, and we definitely hold grudges." He began pacing, forcing the Phobians to track his movement. "You want the Proxima Belt? Fine. But humans will start mining it too. We're messy miners. Inefficient. We'll bring our pollution, our chaos. We'll bring our music, which, by the way, some species find physically painful. We'll bring our food, ever smelled durian fruit? Makes your mist seem like mountain fresh air." Max picked up a stylus from the table and twirled it between his fingers. "We'll send ships crewed by humans who've spent their lives breathing car exhaust and industrial waste. Humans who watch horror movies for fun. Humans who evolved on a world that's constantly trying to kill them, alongside predators that would view your species as a light snack." He stopped directly in front of the Phobian leader. "And we'll be very, very interested in learning more about your fear technology. Humans love reverse engineering things." The Phobians were now literally trembling. Their leader raised a hand in what seemed like submission. "Perhaps a compromise can be reached." Krax, now fully recovered, let out a barking sound that translated as impressed laughter. "By the void, he's done it." Glixnar's membranes had stopped vibrating, replaced by an intense blue glow that the translator didn't capture. "Ambassador Ryder, while your methods are unorthodox, they're getting results," Max finished. He turned back to the Phobians. "So, here's what's going to happen. You'll agree to share mining rights equally among all Galactic Council members. In exchange, humans will focus our operations on the Outer Rim, far from your facilities." "And what guarantee do we have that humans won't expand their presence?" the Phobian leader asked. Max smiled. "How about this? You don't mess with us, we don't mess with you. And as a show of good faith, you can keep your fear mist to yourselves. Though I'd honestly consider marketing a diluted version. Could make a killing in the human entertainment sector." The Phobians conferred briefly. Then the leader stepped forward. "We accept these terms. The mining rights shall be shared." As they prepared to formalize the agreement, Pring approached Max. "Your negotiation tactics defy all diplomatic protocols," the crystalline being pulsed. "Yeah, well, sometimes you need to fight fire with fire. Or in this case, fear with the complete lack of it." "Are all humans like you?" Zeeble asked, now a curious shade of purple. Max laughed. "God, I hope not. One of me is probably enough for the galaxy." The return journey aboard the GCS diplomatic envoy was considerably more relaxed than the outbound trip. Max found himself invited to the command center, rather than subtly encouraged to remain in his quarters. "The Galactic Council has received our report," Glixnar announced as Max entered. "They express surprise at the outcome." "Just surprise?" Max raised an eyebrow. "And gratitude," Glixnar added. "Though several council members have requested more information about human physiology and psychology. Your species has become something of a curiosity." "Great," Max muttered. "Just what we need to be the galaxy's new science project." Krax approached, offering Max a data pad. "The Phobians have already withdrawn claims to exclusive mining rights. They've also requested that any future negotiations with humans be conducted remotely." Max couldn't help but laugh. "I scared the fear merchants. Wait till I tell my ex-wife. She always said my personality would come in handy someday." "Your actions have prompted a reevaluation of humanity's status in the galactic community," Pring communicated, that her crystalline form shimmering with what Max had learned was respect. Quib oozed forward. "I've been analyzing the chemical composition of the Phobian terror mist. When compared to Earth's atmospheric pollutants, there are striking similarities in several compounds. Your species has essentially been exposed to diluted fear gas for generations." "That explains so much about human history," Max mused. Zeeble flashed a complex pattern that translated as wry amusement. "The Council is updating its classification of Earth from developing world to environmental hazard zone. No non-human diplomats will be sent without extensive preparation. And respiratory equipment," added Quib. "So we're the scary aliens now?" Max shook his head. "If they think our air's bad, wait till they try our food. My buddy Dave makes a chili that's probably classified as a weapon in most star systems." Glixnar's membranes pulsed with what Max now recognized as laughter. "Ambassador Ryder, the Council has extended your diplomatic assignment indefinitely. It seems you have a unique skill set valuable to interspecies relations." "Oh joy," Max deadpanned. "More meetings." "And a promotion," Krax added. "You're now classified as a specialist in Xenopsychological Negotiation." "Does that come with a raise?" "Indeed. And a new uniform that I'm told will itch in fewer places." 6 months later, the Galactic Council's approach to humanity had undergone a complete transformation. Earth was now designated a Class X hardened environment, and humans were recruited for specialized diplomatic missions involving particularly difficult species. The Phobians, meanwhile, had become surprisingly cooperative trade partners, though they insisted on conducting all business through sealed environmental chambers. Their terror mist, reformulated under strict controls, had indeed become a popular attraction in human entertainment centers, marketed as the ultimate fear experience. Most non-human species found it baffling that humans would pay to be terrified. As for Max, he now had an office on the Galactic Central Station with a plaque reading "Emergency Human," a joke that had somehow become his official title. His desk featured a small terrarium containing a sample of genuine Chicago air, which visitors could observe through thick protective glass. "Ambassador Ryder, his new assistant, a multi-eyed being from a gaseous planet," announced. "The Draconian delegation is here to protest human expansion in the Orion sector." Max sighed, straightening his much more comfortable uniform. "Let me guess, they breathe fire and think they're intimidating?" "They consume stars and exhale plasma," the assistant corrected. "Cute." Max stood up, grabbing the terrarium. "Tell them I'll be right there." and maybe mention I'm bringing a sample of Earth's atmosphere as a welcoming gift." As he walked to the meeting room, Max couldn't help but smile. Turns out, growing up on a nightmare planet had its advantages after all. The universe, it seemed, had finally found something scarier than the monsters lurking in the dark, humans who called those monsters neighbors and invited them over for barbecues.